Linen is one of those fabrics that people either love immediately or avoid after the first touch. Some describe it as light, fresh, and natural. Others say it feels rough, wrinkled, or uncomfortable. What's interesting is that both reactions are often correct. Linen doesn't try to behave like most modern fabrics, and that's exactly why it feels so different. It has its own texture, its own way of interacting with skin and air, and its own rhythm over time. To understand linen, it's not enough to look at how it appears when new or how it's described on a label. What matters is how it feels in everyday use, how it changes with wear, and why it creates such specific physical impressions. Once you understand how linen actually works, many of its strange qualities start to make sense. What linen is made from? Linen is made from flax fibers, which already sets it apart from many other common fabrics. Flax fibers are long, strong, and naturally uneven, and this structure directly affects how linen looks and feels. Unlike synthetic fibers, which are designed to be smooth and consistent, flax fibers keep much of their natural variation. This is why linen rarely looks perfectly uniform, even when it's carefully woven. Compared to cotton, flax fibers are stiffer and less elastic, which explains why linen wrinkles more easily and doesn't stretch around the body. At the same time, these fibers are very durable and resistant to wear. The material doesn't rely on coatings or finishes to perform well. Its behavior comes directly from the fiber itself. This natural origin is the reason linen feels honest and slightly raw, rather than soft or polished right away. Linen texture. Why it looks uneven. The texture of linen is one of its most recognizable features, and also one of the most misunderstood. The slightly uneven surface, visible threads, and natural wrinkles are not signs of poor quality. They are the result of how flax fibers are spun and woven. Because the fibers vary in thickness, the fabric reflects light differently across its surface, creating a matte, textured look instead of a smooth shine. Linen also resists holding sharp creases, which is why it often looks relaxed rather than structured. This unevenness gives linen a lived-in appearance that many people associate with calm, comfort, and natural spaces. Instead of trying to look perfect, linen shows how it's been used. For some, this feels messy. For others, it feels grounding and real. That reaction depends less on quality and more on expectations. How linen feels on the skin. The way linen feels on the skin is one of the main reasons people have mixed reactions to it. At first touch, linen often feels dry, cool, and slightly firm, especially when it's new. This sensation comes from the stiffness of flax fibers and their low elasticity. Linen doesn't cling to the body or wrap around it the way softer fabrics do. Instead, it creates a small distance between the fabric and the skin, allowing air to move freely. For many people, this feels refreshing and light, particularly in warm conditions. For others, especially those used to very soft or stretchy materials, linen can feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first. What's important is that this sensation changes with use. As linen is worn and washed, the fibers gradually soften without losing their structure. The fabric becomes more flexible and pleasant against the skin, while still keeping its breathable, non-sticky feel. Linen rarely feels cozy in a plush way, but it often feels clean, calm, and natural once the body adjusts to it. New linen versus washed linen. New linen and washed linen can feel like two completely different fabrics, even when they are made from the same material. Fresh and used linen is usually firmer, more structured, and more resistant to movement. This is when wrinkles feel sharper and the surface feels more textured. As linen goes through repeated washing and everyday use, the fibers begin to relax. The fabric becomes softer, more fluid, and less rigid, while still keeping its strength. Washed linen tends to drape better and feel gentler on the skin, without turning limp or weak. This is why many people prefer linen products that are labeled as pre-washed or stone-washed. They already offer that broken-in comfort without waiting months for the fabric to change. Over time, linen doesn't lose its character, it settles into it. The texture remains visible, but the overall feel becomes calmer and more forgiving, which is often when people truly start appreciating linen. Breathability and airflow. One of the most valued qualities of linen is how well it allows air to move through the fabric. This breathability comes directly from the structure of flax fibers, and the way linen is woven. The fibers don't sit tightly against each other, which creates tiny gaps that let air circulate. Because of this, linen rarely feels suffocating or heavy on the body. Instead of trapping heat, it helps excess warmth escape, keeping the skin from overheating. This is why linen is often associated with summer clothing and warm weather comfort. Even when the fabric feels substantial, it usually remains airy. This airflow also explains why linen doesn't cling to the skin when the body warms up. Rather than sticking or wrapping tightly, it maintains a light separation, which many people experience as freshness. Breathability is not about thinness alone, it's about how fabric interacts with air, and linen does this in a very natural way. Linen and moisture. Linen has a distinctive relationship with moisture, and this strongly affects how it feels in everyday use. Flax fibers can absorb moisture from the skin without immediately feeling damp. At the same time, linen releases that moisture relatively quickly, which helps prevent the fabric from staying wet for long periods. This balance is one reason linen often feels comfortable even in warm or humid conditions. Instead of trapping sweat close to the body, it helps move it away and allows it to evaporate. However, this also means that linen can feel cool to the touch, especially when moisture is present. For some people, this cooling effect feels refreshing. For others, particularly in cooler environments, it may feel slightly chilly. Linen doesn't try to create warmth through insulation. Instead, it manages moisture and temperature by staying dry and breathable, which is why it feels so different from fabrics designed to hold heat. How linen changes over time. Linen is one of those fabrics that rarely stays the same as when it was first purchased. In the beginning, it may feel firm, structured, and slightly stubborn. With time, washing, and regular use, the fibers gradually relax. The fabric becomes softer, more flexible, and easier to live with, without losing its strength. Unlike some materials that break down or lose shape, linen tends to improve with age. Its texture remains visible, but the overall feel becomes calmer and more balanced. Wrinkles look less sharp and more natural, and the fabric starts to respond better to movement. This gradual change is part of linen's appeal. It doesn't offer instant comfort in a plush sense, but it rewards patience. Many people find that their favorite linen items are the ones that have been used the longest, precisely because the fabric has adapted to everyday life instead of resisting it. Linen in everyday use. Linen is commonly used in clothing, bedding, curtains, and home textiles because it performs well in situations where breathability and comfort matter more than structure. In clothing, it allows the body to move freely without trapping heat. In bedding, it helps regulate temperature and moisture during sleep, which is why many people find linen sheets comfortable year-round. In curtains and home textiles, linen adds texture without feeling heavy or overwhelming. However, linen also asks for realistic expectations. It wrinkles, it moves, and it doesn't aim to look perfectly smooth. In everyday use, this can feel either relaxing or inconvenient, depending on personal preferences. Linen works best when it's allowed to behave naturally, without constant attempts to control its appearance. When used this way, it often blends into daily life quietly and comfortably. When linen may feel uncomfortable, despite all its positive qualities, linen is not a fabric that works equally well for everyone in every situation. For some people, especially those with very sensitive skin, linen can feel too firm or dry, particularly when it is new. In cooler weather, its breathable nature may feel less comforting, as linen does not trap warmth the way insulating fabrics do. Expectations also play a large role. If someone expects linen to feel soft, smooth, and cozy right away, the first experience can be disappointing. Linen doesn't adapt instantly. It requires time, movement, and washing to reach its most comfortable state. In environments where a polished, wrinkle-free appearance is important, linen can also feel demanding. It resists control and prefers to move naturally. When these characteristics don't match the situation or personal preferences, linen may feel more frustrating than enjoyable. Why linen feels different from other fabrics. Linen feels different because it doesn't try to imitate softness, stretch, or perfection. Its character comes directly from its fibers and structure, not from finishes or treatments designed to make it behave a certain way. Where many modern fabrics aim to adapt to the body instantly, Linen keeps a certain independence. It creates space between fabric and skin, allows air to move, and changes slowly over time instead of offering immediate comfort. This makes linen feel honest and grounded, but also demanding of patience. It's a fabric that works best when expectations are aligned with its nature. Once that happens, linen often stops feeling strange and starts feeling balanced. Not luxurious in a glossy way, but calm, stable, and quietly reliable. That difference is exactly why linen continues to attract people who value comfort that develops naturally, rather than instantly.